Hello, my name is Dr. Charles Stone. I'm a faculty member here at John Jay in the psychology department, and I've been asked today to talk to you a little bit about the research I do and how we go about writing up that research. So, just a little bit about the research I do. I tend to focus on social aspects of memory. I'm a cognitive psychologist, so I'm interested in the psychological, the cognitive processes that influence the way you remember the past. So in a lot of my research, I look at how conversations, the media, can shape how you remember both your autobiographical and collective pasts. When I'm writing up this research, the primary goal is clarity, right? So in science, and at least I can speak from my own experiences with psychology, is we are trying to present information so people can understand it, right? We're trying to provide or describe our research in such a way that it's comprehensible. I know students probably don't buy that when they're reading some of these articles, but it's true. We just speak maybe at a level that is, communicating with other experts in the field. But again, what's important about that is organization. So logical progression from one item to the next. So if you look at a lot of scientific articles, what you'll find are definitely different headings, right? Methods, results, discussion, and part of that is for clarity. So if I want to know exactly what someone did in their research, I don't have to read paragraph by paragraph. I can go straight to the methods section, see what they did, or if I only want to see the results, I can go straight to the results. Or if I just want to look at how they're discussing the results, I can go straight to the discussion. So it's very structured, and that's meant to make it clear. That's not to say it has to be boring. So when I'm teaching my students how to write up, say, their master's thesis, I always argue that you have to have a narrative that has to make sense. You want to capture the reader's attention. So often what you do at the beginning, or you should do at the beginning of at least a psychology paper or a social sciences, capture the reader's attention by stating why is this important, right? So with a lot of studies, it's not enough that you're just interested in it. There has to be a rationale, right? So if you're interested in, say, suicide prevention, you might start off your paper by saying, so many people die a year by committing suicide, right? So you're capturing the attention of the reader and you're stating that, look, this is a problem, right? And so what I often do is I also tell my students that basically when you're writing a research paper, it's like an hourglass. And what that means is when you start off very broad, right? Lots of suicide. And then you start dwindling it down into the specific research question you are interested in. Then you talk about your experiment. And then you discuss your hypotheses and what you found. And then you're bringing it back out to the broader impact. So what do your results suggest about suicide, and what kind of implications does it have on suicide? So when you're writing a scientific paper, you really want to remember this kind of hourglass shape. You start off very broad, get very narrow, you get so narrowed down to your actual experiment, and then you get broader and broader and broader and broader, and then talk about the possible implications of the results you found in your study. So again, what I would say when you're writing scientifically, or at least within the social sciences, is its clarity, logic, and clarity. And I can give you a good example of why this is important. So I teach a class, an advanced methods class here at John Jay in the master's level, and essentially I teach about 15 to 20 MA students how to write up their master's thesis. Now, none of these students, well, not none, but most of these students are not my own students. And so I am not an expert on any of the topics in particular that they're doing. However, I don't need that, right? So I don't need to know exactly the details of or all the research that's been done on, say, Hispanic pedophiles in California. But I do know logic, and I do know coherence. So when I'm reading it, I have to take for granted that they're providing me with all the information. But with that information, I can look at it and say, well, does it logically flow from this paragraph to that paragraph? Do they set up their hypotheses in a way that makes logic? And then do they test those hypotheses logically on the experiments, the variables they want to manipulate? And then do they interpret the results logically, right? So you don't have to be an expert in the field of what you're reading to understand whether it's clear and whether it's logical. So if you're interested in scientific writing or writing within the social or psychological sciences, that would be my biggest tip: is logic, coherence, clarity, to convey the information such that the reader can understand it and so forth. But again, it's not that it has to be boring. You can build that narrative, and you actually want that narrative. You need that narrative. And so you want to start off large, broad, lots of people commit suicide each year, and then you want to dwindle it down to what about suicide are you specifically going to examine. You examine it, write that up, your results, and then you start building back out again. So you discuss your hypotheses, and then you discuss the implications, the real-world implications of what your research suggests about people committing suicide on an everyday basis. So that, in a nutshell, is what I'd say is what it's like to write psychological science or a research paper from a psychological perspective. I think that's about it for me. I hope this is helpful. I think I'm going to be sending an example of this as well, so you'll have that. But feel free to email me. I'm on, obviously, the John Jay website if you have any questions. If not, good luck, and I hope you have a wonderful semester. And I just realized the irony of using suicide as an example when I believe Dr. Whitestone suggested this is on happiness. Oh well, the irony. All right, take care.